From the iHeartRadio studios in New York City, come two diehard fans of the greatest rock and roll band hailing from Hollywood, California. Dissecting all things Guns N' Roses and anything else in their distorted minds, it's Brando and Scotto.
'Cause you know what the fuck you are!
And this is Appetite for Distortion.
Time to die!
And welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode 21. We are legal now. My name is Brando. With me, as always, is my partner in perfect crime, Scotto, Ian. What's going on, salty dog?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited for this show. Katherine Turman coming on, which is someone that you hooked up, and we're excited to have her.
I hooked up the interview. I did not hook up with her.
No.
I used to work together with her at United Stations Radio Networks, a radio distribution platform out of here in the city.
Sounds very serious.
But it's not serious. But I used to work on Hard Drive XL with Lou Brutus. And Katherine, as we'll talk to her about, she works on Alice Cooper's show. So awesome. I haven't seen her in forever.
Nights with Alice Cooper.
Right. And she's seen GNR before they were been signed and is friends with Duff for God knows how long, how many years. So I'm looking forward to getting to talking to her in just a few moments. But I'm also looking forward to October because I'm seeing Guns N' Roses get at Madison Square Garden. Sorry, I'm excited. I haven't seen them at the Garden since 2002 with Buckethead. So I'm going to see them again with my brother Tristan. Went with my brother Logan last year. Maybe if they tour again next year, I'll go with my last brother Cameron to make it official. But
it's kind of funny how, well, I guess Tristan and Logan in particular are like pretty unique names, and then you're Brandon, which is like a pretty common name.
You want to hear a quick little story about it?
Sure.
So I was the firstborn, still am. Brandon was not common at the time. And I was very close to being named Braden, but apparently they put in the name too soon. But Brandon, Logan, Tristan, and Cameron are all names of soap opera stars.
Okay, and all in.
Yeah, where I'm named after Brandon Kingsley, one of Susan Lucci's boyfriends in that Loving fucking show.
So your mom just loves soap operas?
Yep. I think to make it somewhat like, human and normal, she took our middle name, like the first letter, and related it to like a relative. But this has nothing to do with Guns N' Roses. I
have a soap opera story I'll have to tell you off air.
My God. I was starting off like GNR podcast talking about soap operas.
Yeah.
But the fact that I'm seeing it with Tristan, my brother, GNR. I'm just very excited. So I get to see Lady Gaga and Guns N' Roses this year. Yeah.
I've never seen Lady Gaga, and I am a fan. What do you think of the new album, by the way?
I actually haven't listened to it, to be honest.
Oh, really?
With you.
Okay.
Other than like the singles.
I got it kind of late. I think it's pretty good. I like the song. Why am I forgetting the name of the song now?
You like it a lot, apparently. Freebird?
It's going to come to me. John Wayne.
Okay.
I was about to say James Dean. I was like, it's not called James Dean. John Wayne.
Close enough.
Good song.
All right, I've heard of it. I will have to check
that song in particular.
Yes, when we start our Lady Gaga
podcast.
Yes, Radio Gaga, I guess we'll call it. But no, of course, this is a Guns N' Roses podcast, and I'm excited for the show. But you did not buy tickets. I guess we can get into more of that with Katherine because we're going to find out how she feels because she's seen the band before they were even GNR, not even like back in their heyday.
Unless I can get tickets to this Apollo show, it's just not
at the Apollo Theater here in New York City.
Yeah, I'm the type of person, to be honest, where unless there's something really unique happening, I don't need to see a band every single year, even if it's GNR. I've said this before on the podcast. My favorite band of all time is Deftones, tied with GNR. I've seen Deftones probably a good 15 plus times. I saw them 2 years ago. Last year when they came around, I was just kind of like, not a huge fan of the new album. I don't think I'm going to go see them. And I waited. I saw them just last week, and it was an awesome time. So I kind of like having that anticipation. I just saw GNR last year. Don't feel I need to see them again unless there's something really unique going on, like this Apollo show. Now, if I can get tickets to the Apollo show, oh my God, that would be amazing. But seeing them at MSG, unless there's something that I feel like I need to see, whether it's Steven Adler coming out or Izzy coming out, I'm just not that enthusiastic, which might shock some of you, but it is what it is. And I also, if I go see GNR, I want to be on the floor. I want to get good seats. I don't want to be like in the nosebleeds somewhere. So I spent a lot to go see them last year, and it was an awesome time and memory.
I understand, and I got my handicap seats again, so we'll see. You know, I'm sure I'll have a good view, but I won't be up front. Unless I just pretend my handicap is worse than it is, and maybe I'll finagle and see what I can do. But it actually parlays into something that is interesting, because I don't think your thought process is all too far off. We've read a couple of emails on the show from listeners everywhere. I mean, it's amazing. We do this out of New York City. You know, we were doing it out of Long Island first, and of course, you know, it's when we get listeners in our area, sure. But when we get them from other countries, it kind of blows our mind. So one of our favorites has been Anna from Portugal.
Yeah.
And something that we want to do going forward, and we want your help with it. And I asked Anna to help us out with it. She saw, I believe it was the second show on this most recent leg of the tour in Lisbon in Portugal. And I said, you know what? Give us a review. Because she's always writing these long emails to us. She's very well spoken, well read. So I'm like, you know what? I think she would do a good job. I should have told her to kind of shorten it, because she sent us like a 10-minute audio file.
It was more. It's like 11.
Yeah, you have to correct me over a minute. Go fuck yourself. But I added a couple things down that she did. One,
it was great, by the way. It's just, you know, we can't really dedicate 10 minutes to the podcast.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. No,
you know what I feel like? You ever hear that clip of? I'm sorry, I know we'll play it, but you ever hear that clip of Ringo Starr? They always play on Howard. I know you're more of a O&A guy. Of when he just kept getting things sent to his house to sign. And he just kept saying, he was like, with peace and love.
Yes,
peace
I have.
and love.
Yes.
No more signatures.
Yes.
So it's like, you know, you don't want to be a dick, because I really love people sending us this stuff. But if you can keep it short and sweet, it's just, we'll be more likely to play. But I thought she did an awesome job, and it was awesome hearing about this overseas GNR show from someone who saw the band in its different incarnation.
Yeah, there's a couple things. I mean, I didn't give her. I mean, it was just a thought that came to my mind, because there are a lot of people reaching out to us on Facebook and Twitter, both at the AFD show, if you're not already, telling us about the first time they saw the band, or they just saw the show on the recent leg of the tour. And we want to share your stories. We want to share it with your words, not us kind of rehash what you're saying, because it's you. We're all together in this. So we did. I edited down the 11-minute thing, because there's two separate parts of this that I think are interesting. One, I guess you could do two things. If you want to tell us, I guess limit it to 2-3 minutes, because that's radio friendly. That's fine. You could tell us about the first time you saw Guns N' Roses, if there was a first time, and the most recent show that you have seen. So you can kind of give a review of when you first lost your GNR virginity, and review of your most recent, roll in the hay with Guns. But one, she talks about the first show she ever was at. She tells a good story. So again, this is an AFD fan member, Anna from Portugal.
Hi guys, this is Anna from Portugal. I've seen Guns N' Roses in 3 different decades. I'm on my 40s. And actually 40. The first time I saw them was 1992 in Lisbon again, with Matt Sorum and Gilby Clarke on the lineup. 30 minutes into the concert, Axl stormed off of stage. Remember, Soundgarden and Faith No More opened for GNR. Just imagine, I was 16 and it blew my mind. Mike Patton, Faith No More singer, always ready to be a dick, urged fans to throw bottles to the stage. And so when Guns came on stage, Axl slipped, fell, and sang for 2 whole hours laying down. In the meantime, the stadium is full of 60,000 people, full capacity, and some assholes are lighting pyrotechnics in the middle of the crowd. It was by then exactly a year after the St. Louis incident.
So it was a year after the St. Louis incident.
So, yeah.
So that's just cool that she had that kind of experience. But the thing that's going to relate to what you're saying, because she talks about, again, we couldn't play the 11 minutes of it, that she had a good time at the recent show in Lisbon, but she's seen different variations of Guns, and this kind of led her to this summary of her review.
I got to see them live for the 3rd time in my life, which actually means that going on with that mom and dad getting divorced analogy, Mom and Dad are now civil to each other. They all get along, but they are not really back together. But I'm just glad they're all alive. They're all okay. But
How nice.
Here's my thing. Unless they make some new songs, I don't believe I'll go watch them live.
There you go.
Again.
And she's a super fan
this is
saying
Anna
that.
signing off. Thank you again to Ian and Brando.
Awesome.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So
Anna.
cool.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
Yep.
So there are other super fans who kind of feel the same way.
That's why
it was an
I played
amazing
it.
show, but yeah, I'll tell you this. I saw that this is kind of funny. I saw Winger last year.
Sure.
Awesome show.
Sure.
Amazing time. Mohegan Sun Wolf Den, where they have free shows. They are playing Mohegan Sun Wolf Den again this year. I am going. I will not pass up a chance to see Winger again for free. But do I really want to pay $200+ for like a decent seat to see Guns N' Roses play something that's going to be pretty much the same set list? I'm just not enthusiastic for it right now.
I think if it was, if I had to really travel for it, I wouldn't have done it. But the fact that it's right here in New York City,
you're
going to
have an awesome time,
and
you're
I'm
gonna
not
have an excellent time
because going to New Jersey. I mean, again, if you're from Portugal, you're not going to give a shit about anything that I'm saying. So no, I am looking forward to it, and I'm really curious to see what Katherine has to say about it because she's seen the band, like 30 years ago or something. So now she's walking into the studio looking all fancified. What's going on?
So joining us in studio for the first time, Katherine Turman, rock journalist. You can check her out at katherineturman.com. You might know her as the producer of Nights with Alice Cooper, co-author of Louder Than Hell, the definitive oral history of metal. And you're working on a memoir with Mina Caputo, formerly Keith Caputo of Life of Agony. So I do want to hear all about that. But thank you so much for coming in with us.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
The most notable thing, as you know, and Brando, you have history with Katherine a little bit. You're the one who,
we
Hey now.
She's out of my league.
is that Katherine got to see Guns N' Roses way back in the day. And if I remember correctly, just reading through your stuff, you've interviewed every single member of the classic lineup.
Yes, I have.
Amazing.
I mean, growing up in L.A., I started going to clubs when I was like 16. The Troubadour, the Starwood a few times, Roxy, Whiskey, all that stuff. And I met Duff McKagan because he was in my boyfriend's band at one point, right before he joined Guns N' Roses. So when Duff first moved to L.A. from Seattle, I took him to the Coconut Teaser and all these clubs and hung out with him and his girlfriend. And then he joined this other little band that I started to go see occasionally.
What was the name of that band? The one that was with your boyfriend, do you remember? Or do you not want to think about old boyfriends?
We'll X him out of the picture, thank you. No, I might have a few photos of them. I think he would dress the same in that band when he started going to Guns N' Roses, which he had this black batwing coat. I talked to him about it. I think he still has it. It's like this long kind of cape coat, and he always...
Like a duster?
Sort of like a duster,
I keep thinking of Always Sunny in Philadelphia right now.
It's not a jacket. It's a duster. It's like a jacket, only it's longer, thicker, and far more badass. I look like Lorenzo Lamas, and women find it irresistible.
How badass a duster would be.
Yes, a leather duster.
Nice.
And, of course, he always had his, Sid Vicious-y type lock and chain around his neck. So,
Well, they showed that whole Duff McKagan look in It's So Easy and Otherwise, the movie version of the book he did. So you kind of see that version of his image prior to the classic Guns N' Roses image.
Yeah, he recently retweeted a picture that he had never seen before, one of his early days that we actually, so if you want to check it out, it's on the AFD on Facebook and Twitter. So there are even pictures that he hasn't even seen. But what's cool about him, it seems like he's got, I mean, I say this platonically, but whatever, he's gotten better looking as time has passed by. Maybe it's no more booze or whatever, but he looks so different now, and like a good different.
Exactly. I don't know what kind of training he does, but he does something very severe and, some kind of hardcore cross training on actual mountains. I met his guy backstage with him, and it was this huge trainer, bodyguard guy. And
I can't imagine he was into that when he was younger. It was just all drugs and chicks, and, working out was just getting up.
Well, he played drums early on, so I guess he was always active, and he's so tall, I would have imagined he would have been like a 12-year-old basketball guy, but I don't know necessarily.
And he's done bike races as well.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I made this, Catherine. I don't know, because I know you listened to our last episode with Dave Kushner.
Yes.
I like to play sound effects, and I've been lazy with making this one. Did you see the interview that they did last year? It was Axl and Duff on, what was it, Mexican TV or Chilean TV?
I remember when it happened, and I'm like, what the heck? But no, I didn't see it.
Just the one, the way my brain works. When they were talking about Axl DC, Duff used the word radical. Mm-hmm. And it just, maybe, Ian, you'll recognize what I did with this clip.
I don't believe you, Axel.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Son of a bee. It's supposed to be this one.
That's pretty radical.
Radical.
Yeah, I remember the first Ninja Turtles movie. That meant nothing. It was just something that I did to appease my chemical imbalance. Anyway, continue.
I feel so undorky, and I'm sorry for that. Truly.
I don't know, because he's always very surfer, and I always loved that role.
He is very, like, SoCal. Yeah.
And I get that from you. I always know when somebody's not from New York. I'm like, you're nice. You're not from here.
We could also figure out if I say online or inline, standing in line, standing online. I say standing in line, but you people
say online.
Of course.
That is very true.
Weird.
So I feel like the main thing that we have to first get into is seeing Guns N' Roses prior to them getting signed, right prior to all of that. What was the experience like? Did you feel like I'm seeing greatness? Like, this is almost similar to Dave Kushner talking about seeing Soundgarden before they got signed.
And was there a buzz at the time, or was it just like, hey, playing tonight is this band?
No, there was a huge buzz at the time. I mean, obviously, I was kind of in that inner circle because I knew Duff and had gotten to see them, and I was already a journalist. I was in college then. I think this would have been 85-ish or 85, I think, yeah. And I was in college, and I remember one show in particular at the Troubadour where they went back to revisit. That might have been the first time I saw them, and I think Axl was in a kilt. He had that red ball gag, and his hair was all done up. And then
red ball gag?
Yeah.
Oh, Axl.
That's sorry, I broke Catherine.
Wow. And the Troubadour has a second floor, and I remember looking up, and there were like kids with a banner that said Guns N' Roses, and they did a couple covers, I think, like Mama Kin and something like that, and they were just here, I'll use a journalistic 10-cent word, incendiary. I mean, that was just totally...
Nerd alert!
Sorry, Catherine. I swear to God. I won't be doing this the entire show, I promise.
But yeah, there was definitely a big buzz, and I saw there was a club called the Music Machine where I also saw Spinal Tap and Gigi Allen, so it was a fine stage for rock and roll. So I saw a lot of those early shows, and then there was like weird side bands in those early years, like the Drunk Fucks, which was a Duff thing with, I think, Del James at the Coconut Teaser, and there were all sorts of random offshoots. But I saw quite a few of the early shows, and then, of course, the big, I'm jumping ahead here, but, actually I remember seeing them open for the Cult and thinking, oh my God, they blew the Cult off stage.
Yeah.
And then watching Matt Sorum, and then all that happened later. But
I'm wondering, though, that just the feeling, when you see them the first time, did you think this was going to be the next Rolling Stones, or were you just like, this is a cool band I'm seeing on the Sunset Strip?
Well, I guess, I guess I was in my older teenage years then. I was probably 19, 20, 21. I was exactly Duff's age, I think. And I just remember thinking, this is the best band I was going to clubs all the time, and I do remember thinking it was like the best band I'd ever seen. I don't think I was thinking in those terms of like, they're going to be the next well, I guess I was thinking, okay, American bands, Aerosmith. Yes, they're their early days Aerosmith, their Draw the Line Aerosmith, their fucked up, Toxic Twins era. So I guess I do remember thinking that. And since I wrote about them a lot in the early, it was an honor to write about them because I was such a fan. And I do remember talking to Geffen Records in the early days and all the A&R people, and there was definitely a huge buzz.
What do you think about them at the time? Because we've spent 20 episodes thus far talking about what separates them from other bands, or even just other genres, why they're able to cross over or be separate, kind of like a different example of what a rock band could be. There aren't many of that around where everyone likes them. It seems you don't have to be a rock fan to like them, but was there something special at the time, I guess, that you're like, this is why this is different? Because I can imagine all the bands you saw on the Strip, a lot of them were the same, right?
Right.
So what was different about them? What made them stick out? To me, I would say that I'll say commitment to decadence, but that's not really, they were real.
Poison were unabashedly, who I also saw before they were signed, they were not real. I mean, and they reveled in that. They were, here's our eye makeup and our goofiness and our girls and our balloons and stuff. But Guns N' Roses, I mean, I can only think of cliches, walked it like they talked it. They were, it was the world's most dangerous band. They really, they were genuine. There was no pretense or posing at all. On stage, off stage, songs, it was just raw power. Thanks, Iggy.
And they covered that, of course, in the
Yes.
spaghetti incident. So.
Uh-huh.
And you said that on purpose, of course.
Of course. Where are my sound effects? Can't I use some for you?
Oh, that's true. Oh, well,
I don't know.
That's your sound effect.
I'd like a
actually.
rim shot, so to speak.
Oh, well, I didn't let that in. So I'm sorry. I'm prepared, but not. There you go. You'll do your own rim shot.
There
That's
you
fine.
go.
That sounds weird out of context.
It's horrible. Edit.
So since you were, like us, you just like going to shows as a kid. So how did you get into the music business? For me, I knew I was never talented enough to, I sing like a ferret being stepped on. I can't play, Guitar Hero is terrible at it. So I'm like, let me be on the radio, pretend to be a rock star. So that's the path I've taken. So how did you get into writing? And now, I mean, you really have, I feel like you have the Bible of metal. It's a thick book. The way it looks is beautiful. And I mean, how did?
Thank you. It's
I can't imagine like the path, because you've taken a really hard path. And you've been successful at it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the book is over 700 pages and over 2 pounds. And I think one of my rock critic brethren once took it in the backyard and shot a gun and to see if the book would stop a bullet.
Oh, wow.
Not quite, but close.
As long as he paid for it, I guess it doesn't matter.
So if you want to read it on the subway, just, hold it in front of you. And if there's any gunfire, you should be okay. How I started. I started going to clubs at about the age of 16, which would have been 1981, too. And interesting at that time, metal and new wave were both kind of happening at the same clubs. So one night I'd go to the Troubadour and I'd see Berlin or the Motels, and then the next night I'd see Wasp, and Blackie would be throwing meat out.
Awesome.
So just because actually friends started going, I started going to the Rainbow Bar and Grill. I'm sure you have heard many decadent stories about that place, if not been there for the pizza.
I know you've been there. We haven't, and not yet. I mean, that's maybe like a trip.
Ooh.
That'll be like.
I one day really would love to go.
We should do a remote there one day.
You should.
I mean, and Lemmy's statue is out there right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually started going there when I was 17. I had a fake ID. Met lots of bands there, including Brian May, and I told him that my mother liked Queen, which was probably not the coolest thing to say.
My mom's your biggest fan.
Exactly. I was like, wrong. But anyway, I was going to see a lot of bands, and I picked up all the free papers. In L.A. we had the Weekly and just a bunch of at all the record stores when there were brick and mortar stores. We had Licorice Pizza. We had
Licorice
Music
Pizza.
Plus. Who did you guys have in New York?
As far as record
stores?
Tower Records, Sam Goody.
Right.
What else was there?
We had the Warehouse, we had Licorice Pizza, we had Tower. Those were anyway.
Okay.
So there were always papers up front. So I'd pick them up and read them, and I'd be like, "Oh, these people can't write. I'm doing really well in English. I should write." And literally, that's how it started.
Nice.
I walked up to a magazine called New Talent Street Scene. I physically went into their offices, and they kind of like laughed at me because I was a teenager. And they're like, "All right, here's an assignment." And so I went out and interviewed a band, and I didn't even know I was supposed to record it, so I just took notes. I knew nothing, and that was the beginning. Then I went to...
It's like an Almost Famous kind of thing.
It is.
Except, a female lead role.
Except not even quite famous. But then I went to journalism school, and that was... I went to USC, and during that time was when I was seeing Guns N' Roses and seeing all these bands, and I wrote for the school paper called the Daily Trojan. Great name, no jokes here. No.
Well, that's what they are. They're the Trojan horses.
Exactly.
All right, see, I won't be a pervert. That's a real thing.
Well, no, are we the Trojan horses? I only went to with the Trojan fighters. I thought
it was. I half-ass pay attention to college football.
That's all right.
So that's about it.
Well, we do well in the Rose Bowl. That's all I know.
So there you go.
But anyway, so I wrote. I was bringing a lot of metal into USC. It was kind of a preppy school. One of my first interviews was Dee Snider, and I was writing about all sorts of metal stuff for school. And I started freelancing and seeing all these bands. And then to move quickly ahead, I got an internship at the LA Times calendar section, and that was really set me on my path. I wasn't determined to become a music writer or a rock journalist. I was just going to become a journalist. But they're like, "Oh, you've written about this weird person in the Trojan. Why don't you go to the calendar section, little girl? And
Was it really what you wanted to write about? I mean, I would think if you're going to all these shows, it was just a natural fit, it sounds like.
It was. But I enjoy all kinds of writing, and I still do. I mean, I still try and write about books and authors or food or non-music topics. But yes, music is my favorite, definitely. But, I wasn't set on becoming, the editor of, what would it have been back then? Kerrang or Cream or Circus or Trouser Press or whatever.
Where were you when Use Your Illusions came out? The reason I asked that, because I was listening to Get in the Ring today. And it's just so funny because, of course, in the breakdown, he's calling out all these authors.
Yes.
Mick Wall, Bob Guzioni Jr. Were you upset? You used to heard the song. I'm not going to.
Does he call out Mick Wall in it?
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that.
What an honor.
So
don't you host a Guns N' Roses podcast?
Yeah, no, I should know that. I do know he says
Mick
the
Wall,
guy.
Kerrang, Bob Guzioni Jr.
I remember
because your dad gets more pussy than you.
I do remember
Fuck
those.
You. Suck my fucking dick. All right,
it's crazy to think Mick Wall, though, is still this guy writing articles. Because I feel like these other names I haven't heard since Getting the Ring.
I know.
So anyway, sorry, back to your question.
Wow.
But that sidetracked me.
My career is not going to be complete till I get called out in a song.
Well, I guess that's part of the question. Is that now your goal?
Oh.
But I mean, do you remember when that came out? And were you like, how old were you? Do you remember being like a journalist? Because I'm trying to think of like where you were in your career. And like, they're calling
that was 91,
out my
right?
I think so. Calling out my not like counterparts or
my peers.
My peers. There you
yes.
go.
No, 91. I mean, I was living in L.A. Grunge hadn't started yet, so
it hadn't killed hair metal yet.
Yes, debatable, but yes. And I don't know. I won't say I was. I definitely wasn't over Guns N' Roses at that point because I still love them to this day. But I wasn't as they'd gone on to be so huge that I didn't have the access to them, and I wasn't as involved as I was when. I mean, I remember I was in the studio for Appetite for Destruction.
Wow, we got to hear about that.
I know, Mike Klink, and I remember when Duff brought the finished album over to a friend's house, his friend Al Block, a bass player who they'd played in some similar bands, and like, here's the new Guns N' Roses record. I remember when Duff played it for us. I'm wow, this is awesome. So by the Use Your Illusions, I was excited, but I wasn't as invested. I mean, I still love, I love Coma, I love Garden and Garden of Eden. I love a lot of those songs, actually, and I was pretty amazed that they were doing a double album. But I don't think the Get in the Ring, the call out thing.
Okay,
I
that
don't
was just
think
a random thought.
It didn't.
Because my undergrad was broadcast journalism, so sometimes when I'm like with someone who's also like another journalist, I have a little moments that I need to have. So I was just randomly curious about that.
No, I mean, a lot of their shenanigans involved people I knew, like, Bryn Breidenfeld, their publicist, and a lot of their early shenanigans, apparently they poured booze on her. And so, I mean, And
I guess that was also, too, because you mentioned peers and if you knew any of these people. So I didn't know if, maybe there was more to the story than there. That's what I was, reaching for. But clearly, there's nothing. So this is a pointless question.
But we did.
We can ask Mick Wall.
I know.
We did hear through all that, though, that you were in the studio when Appetite for Destruction was being recorded. So that in itself, I have to hear all about.
Yes. Well, actually, was something. Well, here when you talk about was there a buzz? I mean, I guess back in the day when we had answering machines with the little tapes, remember? I was going to the studio to interview them, and Slash called me that morning at like 6 a.m. I didn't answer because, of course, I was asleep.
He had to have still been awake.
Exactly. Okay. And he's like, you're coming to interview us, bring a bottle. I think he said Jim Beam, but it might have been Jack Daniels. So anyway, I have a bunch of old answering machine messages with stuff like that on it from them. So, I had a sense that maybe they would go somewhere. So I guess that's I didn't save, everyone's.
You got to put them together, put it on like YouTube or something. I mean, unless there's something like really private.
Nerd alert.
Nerd alert!
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, nothing private at all.
Okay.
But no, going to the studio, I guess Mike Klink, and I have to say, I didn't have the forethought to take notes or anything. I kept all my calendars, so I probably have some notes, like says, 1:30. Mike Klink, some phone number to the studio or whatever. But I think it was that time or another interview where I had to give Duff and Stephen rides home afterwards. So I remember driving.
Uber.
I think it was a later interview because Appetite had already come out. And I remember Stephen was in my car and he started air drumming because I don't remember which Guns song it would have been from Appetite, but it came on the radio, and I'm like, Steven Adler's next to me, and he's air drumming to his own song on my dashboard. And and then Duff, of course, I knew a bit, so he was at that point living across from the Hollywood Bowl in some divey apartments, and I think he asked me, I might have lent him money for a liquor store thing, actually.
I don't think you're getting that money back.
I don't think so.
Out of all the things you saved, you have like this one IOU from Steven Adler or something.
Exactly. So in those days also, their early management, Alan Niven, I'd met him because he was working with Great White, I think, before that, and I'm dating myself. Oh, at least someone will. But sorry,
it's that whole era, though.
It was. I have to say, I was so excited. It was such a great time to be a part of. And now I've lived in New York for a decade, so I don't know if LA still has any sort of a scene that feels.
Art Tavano will tell you it's not, nearly the same because he's out. Or we've had. I'm like forgetting
and
names.
Vicky Hamilton's from LA are living in LA also.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one who booked him. Metal Sludge.
Oh, it's Stevie Rochelle?
Yeah, Stevie Rochelle kind of hinted that it's not really the same either.
No, of course. I mean, how can anything, regardless of the geography, be the same that it was back in the 80s? But yeah, I hear it's nothing like that now, which is sad. I mean, you hear all these amazing stories, and I mean, I can't imagine the impact that Katherine has had on you as a young teenager and what it's led you to become and to be. And you would hope there are scenes still out there that can create more authors and these, give people just wonderful stories. I can't even imagine sometimes you have to sit back sometimes. We haven't even gotten really into a lot of what you've done. You can sit back and like, really? This was my life? Just like that one mention of just like drumming, Steven Adler's drumming on the dashboard.
Right.
But, I mean, that's incredible.
I know it's funny. People would always ask, why don't you write a book? I'm like, first of all, I don't remember all these intimate details, and I would have to make them up. Like I'd have to.
Like Keith Richards remembers. He has a book.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing too.
Maybe I should call my book Life. Is that taken? Oh wait, that was Keith's, wasn't it?
Yes.
I could call mine the No Heroin Diaries since I wasn't a drug addict.
The Katherine Chronicles?
There you go.
I like alliterations. Turned in the Turman? No.
Well, the Terminator.
Ah, okay. I was trying to think of like terming the page.
Bob Seger reference? Or no?
Play on your last name. And a book. It was terrible.
Yeah,
you're the author, not me.
Anyway, so I don't really, for a long time, and that got me access to a lot of this was I worked at Rip Magazine for 8 years.
Rip.
Published by Larry Flint and edited by Lon Friend.
And we posted a lot of pictures on our social media of like old school classic GNR and Axel covers, and I believe they even did some commercials for them that we posted as well when people call to order this magazine.
Yes. I believe they had like
on payphone at a payphone booth. Unbelievable.
Well, that was not just because, but because I shared an office with Del James.
Okay.
Who is a Guns N' Roses insider. He's on the road with them to this day.
Yeah, he's a tour manager. He's like an official.
He's kind of like a tour manager. Yeah.
Yeah. We follow him on Twitter. He's a good follow.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Very political. Does not like Trump. That's putting it lightly.
Wow, how weird. And he's a great writer, and he wrote actually November Rain. Do you know the November Rain story?
The short story that led to November Rain, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So I shared an office with him, and he was, I think his girlfriend at the time was Duff's roommate, and so everyone knew everyone, and so Rip Magazine got a lot of great access to them. And my boss there, Lon Friend, he wrote a book about his time with the rock stars and the interviews. I'm like, it's just I don't feel I could do it, which is why when Louder Than Hell came about, I was very excited that I could tell all the stories without putting me in them.
That's cool.
But which one of your connections got you into the studio for Appetite? Because that's such a unique experience. I mean, it's one thing, okay, if you're friends with Duff, you have some private listening party, but to be actually in the studio and things are...
No, but that's, back in the day...
Or is it just it's a hangout, it wasn't as private?
No, it wasn't. No, back in the day of journalism, pre-internet, which this was, bands granted a lot more access, just like you saw in Almost Famous. He went on the road with, what were they called? the Almost Famous band.
Oh,
Sweetwater.
Yes.
He went on the road with Sweetwater for, weeks and, lost his virginity, was on the bus and was doing drugs and, back in
the American dream.
Yes, exactly. My dream, my journalism dream. And back in the day, that stuff happened all the time. Not that it happened with me, but I got an assignment to interview, I think it was for Music Connection magazine. I did a cover story on them. And they're like, oh, just go in the studio to do the interview. And, you could go and hang out. I mean, maybe that happens now if you're doing something for Rolling Stone or Esquire or some, super high profile thing. But the access just isn't granted like that anymore. But back then it was reasonably normal. Like I say, Slash called me up and said this, or, I probably, had all their phone numbers then. And
that's so cool.
That is so rare these days. Unfortunately, just the industry, standards have changed.
One of the things about that album that people have talked about on this show before, that I think not everybody realizes, is that Appetite for Destruction wasn't like an overnight success. Welcome to the Jungle was not the first video or the first single. So I'm wondering how you felt as this album got released. Did you think, this isn't really going to go anywhere, or maybe this is going to be like another Faster Pussycat, one of these bands who was kind of that same exact era, really? Or did you think, like, just wait, because the songs are amazing. The songs are all there.
Well, yeah, and radio and the world had to catch up, I guess. And I think MTV probably played a part in that. Well, what's funny is in this article that I'm speaking of that I did for Music Connection, which is still around, I got a business angle and I talked to people at Geffen. I don't remember, might have been Tom Zutaut. It was either someone in radio promotion or A&R. And it was several months after the record had been out. And they're like, we're hoping it can go top 50. And, no one even at the label had the expectations or belief that it would be what it was. And I guess I didn't either, because it just, it just seemed too dirty and dangerous for public consumption. And then, all these people went on the record saying, oh, hopefully they'll do okay. And then, eventually it started building. And, I can't even remember the order. It was Sweet Child. Was that the breakthrough? You guys, come on.
Well, really, welcome to the Jungle, because the first...
Well, that was the first hit was Welcome.
Yeah, but the first single was
the first
either... Yeah, and the first video, which, is the one that they changed, was either It's So Easy or... I think it was It's So Easy is the one that looks kind of like a typical hair metal video.
Right.
Axl looks way more glammed out,
Mm-hmm.
and that, as a single, didn't go anywhere. I know that Brando's double-checking this. I think... It's So Easy, I believe.
When everyone's trying to please me, baby. I still love that song. And when I saw them last at what's PNC? I don't know where. No, where's the big place in Jersey that's outdoors that some sports team plays
Giant
at?
Stadium.
Giant Stadium.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Yes.
Yeah, we went last year.
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing the Garden. I got my tickets for the Garden for October 10th.
Will they play the Garden at the Garden?
I've been waiting to bring that up because the natural progression of conversation.
I just segued for you.
Well, I appreciate
Anytime.
that. Look at that. So, has Alice ever spoken about his recording the Garden? Has he ever?
He gets asked about Guns N' Roses a lot because they opened for him in the early days. I think actually they didn't even. I think he says it was a show in Santa Barbara where they didn't even show up or something. This was in the early days, So yeah, Alice has talked about it, and he's done a fair amount of collaboration with the guys, including Duff, and whenever there's a tribute album or something, or some Music Cares or some benefit thing, he does end up. He's a big fan and friend of Duff and Slash. I know. He hasn't really. I don't know if Alice has talked about Axl too much. I can ask him for you.
I would appreciate that, because the more I'm thinking about it, before we were talking about Motley Crue,
yes.
and there wasn't much fanfare or specialty moments. And now with this new leg of the Guns N' Roses tour, I mean, for the most part, the set lists have been the same, but they've had special moments. Angus Young came out in Germany, and I just think it's funny that the show is delayed because of the weather, not because of Axl. Mm-hmm. And unlike Axl and GNR, there were Twitter updates, we'll hit the stage in 15 minutes. I'm like, whoa, where's this band come from? So, I mean, they've had moments like that, or he's gone on stage with Billy Joel.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, will there ever be another, an Alice Cooper kind of reunion with Axl and Guns N' Roses, to do the Garden like a one-off, because Sebastian Bach, of course, has gone on stage plenty of times. So I don't know. I would love to see that.
All right, I think we have to make it happen. Actually, I've been able to make weird little things like that happen. This is a weird big thing, but like once someone said to me, "Oh God, we'd love to have Ace Frehley play on our record," I'm like, "Hey," and I made that happen.
I wish I had that power.
Well, it took a little bit, but I mean, sometimes I'm able, I just have a lot of friends from over the years, as we all do. And,
She's
sometimes.
in the mafia. She puts out hits.
Your kneecaps look mighty fine over there. No, so that, well, something that's interesting is like, obviously Alice in the 70s was doing arenas, and now he's not. But someone like Motley took Alice out. People are like, Alice shouldn't be opening for Motley Crue, but, technically Motley at the point was the bigger band, more hits and all that. So I don't know. I think it would be awesome if Alice could open for Guns N' Roses.
I think it'd be great.
Or even get the Hollywood Vampires
that
to
even
do
better.
Because you were at the show. This is, I guess, made me think about it.
Yeah,
I know, because you're also a big Aerosmith fan.
Sure.
Ian.
Yeah.
Listening to Rocks on the way here. Great album.
Yeah, when Joe Perry passed out. I remember that's how I knew, and I was on the radio at the time, and I was getting like updates from Catherine, who's at the show.
And it was on Long Island.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It was at Coney Island.
Brooklyn.
Oh, Brooklyn, okay.
Yeah, it was the opening season of that Coney Island Amphitheater, and I had just met Joe, not for the first time. I'd interviewed all of Aerosmith before, but I went backstage for the meet and greet. Even though I work with Alice, I still waited in line because I wanted to meet Johnny Depp, of course. And so I'd seen Joe, and he was super emaciated. I mean, he's always been, he and Steven, totally scrawny guys, but he was,
Apparently he didn't sleep for 2 days or something.
Apparently. And so, they did the meet and greet, and then they're on stage, and they're second and a half, third song. And then I'm like, oh my God, where did he go? And then the most terrifying thing was I saw all these people behind the drum riser carrying someone off. I'm like, oh my God, I think that was Joe. It was just...
the whole rock world was collectively held its breath. Even though we've had so many losses over the last few years. I mean, we want to take our victories where we can, but again, the reason why I ask, and it also parlays into a lot of these stars dying young, and you have these legends like Alice still out there, still doing it. Take advantage of the opportunity. Thankfully, a few years ago, Eddie Vedder got together with Chris Cornell, and they had some, Temple of the Dog. They had a reunion show, a reunion tour. So to have those moments and not wait for something to go wrong, I think that would just be really appreciated by the fans, especially since he's still so close with Slash and Duff. I mean, I don't know his relationship with Axl. But to have a moment to do that.
I think everyone loves Alice just because he is such an easygoing guy. I mean, he's a huge icon, but he's so down to earth. I think, if Axl was to ask,
I can't
Alice
imagine
would say,
it. Yeah, I can't imagine him saying no.
I am going to suggest that, and if it happens,
Credit
it all
who did
began
it.
here.
All right.
That would be amazing.
All right. Excellent.
I mean, right now, Alice is on his own tour through the rest of the year. He's in Europe right now. So that the only difficulty might be finding them in the same place at the same time.
That's usually how it works.
But we're going to...
Alice also has some parallels to Axl Rose, I feel like, in that, people consider there to be a classic Alice Cooper band lineup, and the band has gone through many different lineup changes, and people kind of fall in love with these different players. I mean, he's introduced the world to so many different players.
Kane
like
Roberts.
Kip Winger.
Right.
A lot of guys. So I think there's a little bit of a parallel there.
Well, I mean, what do you guys feel about original lineup GNR versus the current lineup, or actually maybe the middle? How do you call the middle years lineup?
Well,
Rose and Roses.
That's what Dee Snider said, right?
Yeah, or Axl and Friends.
Axl and Friends, like Fox and Friends.
We didn't come up with either.
Two
of
guys,
these names,
a girl,
yeah.
and a pizza place in Axl Rose.
I think for Brando and I mean, I think it's safe to say we love all the incarnations, really.
Really?
Yeah, I
Love's
was
a
a fan
strong
of all of
word.
it. I loved all of it.
I mean, love's a strong word. Obviously, I had never seen the original, unlike you, Catherine, even before they had signed. My first opportunity, I think it was the reunion of the O2 show in MSG with Buckethead, and that was before the Chinese Democracy Tour went completely awry. And it was a good show, but I didn't leave feeling with the aura of Guns N' Roses. And the same thing when we saw them in Roseland.
I love that show, though, man.
With DJ Ashba. And I saw them. I know what I did. It was not a Freudian slip. And I saw them also in Ottawa with Bumblefoot. So I've seen all the different incarnations, and I've enjoyed it. I love Chinese Democracy as a record. But this is something about Axl and Slash. It's just kind of mom and dad, aspect to it. And for me, I grew up Alice Cooper. I know it's the Alice Cooper band. It's Alice Cooper. And I know that it's not taking away from any of his players, but I just don't have the emotional attachment. I wonder if his fans have the emotional attachment.
There are some that do. I've heard Dee Snider has commented on it and said it's not fucking Alice Cooper, basically. But, it's his name, his band that he created. But there are definitely some. I mean, you probably have experienced it a lot more than us, of these fans who are diehard about the band that made School's Out for Summer and all these classic songs. Yeah,
and working with Alice for 11, 12 years now, I've gotten to know Dennis Dunaway and Neil Smith, the original rhythm section, who are also brother-in-laws, which is interesting. Neil's sister's married to Dennis Dunaway.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, I know that. And what's very interesting to me is how Dennis and Neil will talk to me as a somewhat neutral party and talk about the old days, and Alice will, and the stories are completely different. And, I'm sure it would be that way with almost any band. Everyone has different memories and was on different drugs or whatever.
And that's the interesting thing in why we are, or how we are, here now, because whose version is real, the Axl version or the Slash version? So you never know. Yeah. You have to be a fly in the wall, and you just don't know, and hope they get back together. So it's been great. Alice has been doing some stuff with the original band in the recent years.
Yeah, he's got a new record coming out in July, and there will be a couple live songs with the original band, and I think a couple studio with the original band.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, everyone is alive except for Glenn Buxton. Is that correct, I think?
I would have to check.
I also will yell at you.
So you know what I have to ask about is when you really think about it. No, there's no here. When you really think about it, Axl Rose has done so few interviews within the span of his career. I feel like, probably in a matter of a month or two, Slash has done as many interviews sometimes promoting a project than Axl has done his entire career. So I have to know what that experience is like, interviewing Axl. Every interview he does, it's like an event. Like when Eddie Trunk interviewed him, or when Jimmy Kimmel had him on, it was the type of thing where if you're remotely a fan of the band, holy shit, Axl Rose is going to be on Jimmy Kimmel tonight. You got to check this out. If Slash is on Jimmy Kimmel, it's not anything that out of the ordinary, to be honest, whether you're a fan or not, because it's just he's been oversaturated on some level, and Axl is so secretive, and you're pulling out the Rolling Stone. I got to see this.
Well, I was going to say, in that way, Axl is like Prince, I guess.
Yes.
Very secretive, mysterious. Does anyone know the real guy? And, I probably only interviewed him twice, and certainly not since the late 80s, I guess. And I've interviewed all the other guys since then, including Izzy, though I haven't talked to him since Juju Hounds days. No, I was going to say, Rolling Stone did their special edition, which I have a story in, one of my Slash stories. But I was reading the Axl interview by Kim Neely, just because, it was really interesting stuff that she touched on. And I'm like, she asked him, what's your first memory? And I think he said it was before birth, because he'd gone through past life regression therapy or something.
Really?
And she really was following up and asking all these questions. And she's like, people are going to think that's weird. And he's like, I don't care. It was really a great interview to kind of get to know him. So for me and my experiences with him, he's always been, the few times a million years ago, I didn't get the sense he was, or at least with me, he was never crazy or unreasonable or wild. I've had, bands up at Geffen Records back in those days in the late 80s. They had a lot of, who did they have? Salty Dog and Little Caesar and all these bands. And I had bands nodding out from drugs and all sorts of things. But Axl was funny and thoughtful and, just a fairly regular guy. So when all the talk came about, why is he late to shows and all this stuff started happening. I hadn't followed him very closely or even tried to get an interview throughout the 90s or anything. But, I wondered, is there something going on? I guess I'm kind of struggling here to say, I guess in the early days he talked about he was on lithium and he was diagnosed as bipolar. And then I'm like, is he just being a dick, or is he really having issues, or
Sure.
is it, I don't know. I can't say that I know. I mean, I know a lot of people close to him, but I don't want to ask, and they probably wouldn't tell me anyway. So,
I mean, I do get the feeling there is something there. Like there's been so many points in his career where you could say this is a little strange, that's a little strange. I think somewhat more recently. It's not really recent, but when Chinese Democracy came out, like, people are waiting over 15 years for this album to come out, and he leaves the country, does no promotion, apparently no way to get in touch with the guy. That was bizarre.
Right. Well, I know some inside things just in ways that I shouldn't. But
Mafia.
Yes, exactly. Once again. Someone I was close to worked at his business management company at one point and had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So he would update me on Axel's funds and the car he bought that he couldn't drive because he didn't know how to drive a stick shift, and that Axel's housekeeper Beta was now becoming his manager, and her whole family lived there now. And so I heard a lot of interesting inside stuff. But again, as a journalist, I'm not going to, except for now, of course, no, I'm not going to go out and follow those National Enquirer type leads. I mean, it was interesting to me to know, and we all love knowing the inside scoop.
Sure, that's why you weren't called out and get in the ring.
Exactly.
You're honest, you have integrity.
I do. I know. That's why I'm not more famous. But after this, we'll see what happens. I'm not cutthroat.
No, I appreciate that you're not like that, and I'm sure that bands appreciate that. I'm sure Alice appreciates.
I've had bands try to come after me physically and stuff. I'm not perfect. I mean, aggressively come to my office and say, I hate you, you wrote this about me, what the hell are you talking about, I'm going to get you, sort of thing.
Well, do you like the approach that Guns are, as a journalist, that they have? I mean, is it, because we've used a lot of sports analogies here, there are some athletes that will give you the greatest quote ever, and the other ones you just do the cliches or just barely an answer, practice, we're talking about practice.
Right, 110%.
So do you like it as also a fan that they are so mysterious? Does it give you more leeway to kind of write kind of your own story, to be like, why is he like this? Or would you just rather prefer straightforward answers? Because that's kind of what I've been torn with. It's just, I wish I got more from this band, more tangible, I guess.
Right.
But in a sick way, I kind of like it that they have a mystery around them.
Yeah, I mean, there is hardly anyone, like we just mentioned Prince, there is hardly anyone who has that kind of mystery.
Especially today, with everyone's putting everything on Twitter and Snapchat, every thought is going out there. I mean, the fact that Guns are even now with all the current tour, how they're keeping everything so quiet. Even their big announcement was just another tour. Yeah, they kept it quiet until the day of.
Well, what's interesting? A friend of mine was a guitar tech for Slash in his last solo thing before Guns reformed, and apparently, of course, they all knew, because they're like, all right, we're not going to be working for a year and a half on Slash solo, but they all kept it completely quiet. I was close friends with this guy. We'd have conversations. I'd be like, I wonder if they're going to reunite. He'd be like, yeah, I wonder. I'm like, you're out with Slash, don't you know? He's like, yeah, I wonder. I'm like, Argh. So it turns out, of course, everyone knew, but everyone really kept, I mean, of course, hundreds of people had to know because they were all talking to Live Nation or managers or whoever were all talking, but it really... The final thing, yes, we're reuniting, and, that really was kept secret, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
I think the secrecy is a good thing. I like it.
I do. It just keeps you guessing, and you don't have that. You don't have that dangerous element anymore in music. Everything is so pre-planned, and it's like faux violence, faux danger.
Right. And sometimes you don't, some bands you don't care what they're doing. Guns N' Roses, you kind of care. You're like, okay, what is Axl really? I mean, once I saw him in Santa Monica at a restaurant, I'm like, oh my God, he eats in restaurants.
Well, that's why
he's like me.
I know. Celebrities, they're just like us.
I think I told you this, but I'm not. Look, we got to get into it, but the Apollo show. If I could go to that will be amazing. And
I appreciate the listener that commented on our Facebook by saying, Ian, because you just left Sirius. Hopefully, you did not piss anyone off in your exit interview.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way I'm getting in, but
not with that attitude.
I really do hope so. But so here's the thing: I'm not necessarily that excited for these MSG shows. I'm just being completely honest with the audience. I know that you guys think, oh, you're a super fan, you got to care about all this stuff, but I listen to so much different music. And the thing with Guns N' Roses, I was thinking back on every time I've seen them live. So the first time I saw them at the Izod Center, was it I think it was the first time I saw them was the Izod Center. I saw them in New Jersey. Yeah, that sounds right. It was like this band hasn't toured in like 5 years, even though it was new Guns N' Roses. It was like, I got to go see them. Who knows when they're going to come around again. Then when I saw them after that, it was years later, Izod Center. But it was another thing where there wasn't this big touring cycle, so I was excited for that. Then I saw them Roseland with you, and my feeling was small venue. When's the next time we're going to see them in a venue this fucking small?
That was it. It was like, when's the next time I'm going to see Axl?
The answer is 1 month.
And then
now, yes.
I won't go through all of them, but like then the time after that, Brooklyn Bowl, and they announced it days before they were playing Brooklyn Bowl. It's like, I gotta see this. Axl Rose at Brooklyn Bowl. This is like the closest thing to seeing him play in my living room. Then the reunion, you're excited for that. And right now, I just feel like there's nothing. If I heard that like Izzy and Steven were going to be there, I'd say, I'm there. I gotta see this. But right now, I feel like I'll probably see the same show that I saw a year ago, and I don't feel like it's a must-see thing for me.
I have to say I agree. I mean, only because I'm old and jaded, though. No, I mean, I saw the original Guns so many times in the early lineup. Nothing can replace that. I've seen them over the years. Like we talked about, I saw when they turned Webster Hall back into the Ritz. I actually caught this mic windscreen, the red mic windscreen.
Oh, nice.
I have that at home. I don't know what to do with it, but maybe I can get the DNA off it and clone Axl.
Little Axls. Like little gremlins.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't feed Axl after midnight, though.
So I guess someone got the microphone and you just got the...
Yes.
Okay.
I know. Well, take what we can get. So I know, I agree. I'm not even attempting... I mean, if someone gives me tickets, yay, I'll take
Same
them.
here.
But I'm not going out of my way because I've seen them so many times. They're amazing. And like I said, the last show I saw in Jersey, it was, it was beyond great.
It was great.
I was left, wanting nothing. I mean, I don't think there was of course there's songs I might have wanted to hear, but I didn't really feel like anything was left out.
Yeah, if the Apollo, on the other hand, that's an event. I would absolutely love to see that. And there's a huge difference between seeing them at MSG and seeing them there. And for me, like if I'm going to see Guns N' Roses, I want to be down there on the floor. And it's just incredibly expensive now to see Guns N' Roses on the floor. And there's a lot of other bands touring that I love to see where you pay like $20 to get in, and they're sometimes the best shows of my life. So I just feel like unless they're going to give me something that I'm waiting for, Izzy, Steven, as I said, I can't get that overly excited, and that's just me being honest.
Right. I have to say, I did go see Adler's Appetite at the Bell House in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Nice.
I went with John Wiederhorn, my co-author on Louder Than Hell. We had a great old drunken time. No, it was really, I think Steven added something so great to the band, that I feel that way about Bunny Carlos and Cheap Trick as well. I mean, the replacements are awesome. They're replacement drummers, not the band, but the band also. Anyway, but I think Steven's shambolic,
the smile he has on his face when he plays.
And, I know Matt Sorum's like a machine, and of course he's played with, the Vampires, so he was great. But I love Frank Ferrer, I have to say. I think he is such a great drummer.
He's from the area. He's from...
Yeah, I think he's a Jersey. He might live in
Brooklyn.
Jersey.
Oh, maybe he moved.
Yeah,
I know he plays in Brooklyn a lot.
Yeah, I used to go see his Mule Kick shows, and sometimes...
Sure. We got to get out to one of his shows.
He's such a nice guy and such a great player. He was in a band called Pisser that was from around here.
Sure.
So...
But then you have me, though, that's spending the $300 to go to MSG, I believe, October 10th. And I agree.
Wait, you spent $300?
Oh, I mean, I can look up the...
not on one. Okay, because I was going to say, are you like way up front? Because if you are, that's awesome.
No, I got, again, my handicap tickets.
That's cool.
That's why, I'm taking advantage of it when I can.
We don't get these industry freebies, everyone. Sometimes we do, but not always.
You have to be born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. It's because I tried the handicap seats and like the last few handful of shows, and I get treated like, I don't know, like a hot girl, like someone who is like VIP.
You mean free drinks?
Yeah, if I don't drink, but I could if I wanted to. Elevators. I'd probably take like the Axl Rose entrance. But, other than just wanting to experience this with another one of my brothers, I went with another one last year. I guess it's a little bit full circle because I saw them in 2002. in MSG with Buckethead. Now to see them with Slash.
That's cool.
In some reason in my brain, that's kind of like a nice, bow on this story. But also,
will you get a tattoo for that?
For that show?
Well, do you have any Guns tattoos?
I do. I have User Illusion on my left shoulder blade. I had to think about what side it was on. Well, part of it.
And that's a Kostabi drawing, I believe, right? Mark Kostabi? Painter?
No, that's Raphael.
Oh.
Not the Ninja Turtle. The actual painter. Yeah, no, I had established that on this show.
Really? Okay.
It's the School of Athens. I felt better about myself.
Wow.
I'm not just getting a Guns N' Roses tattoo. It has more meaning to it. School of Athens, I believe it was Raphael that has, Plato and Socrates and Aristotle. And I believe the cover of User Illusion is just a boy in the background, a student writing in the book.
Okay.
So I have that with the red outline. And eventually, I'll get User Illusion 2 on the right shoulder blade and maybe make it like a scenic November Rain scenic background because I'm emo.
Dolphins or no?
Dolphin. Maybe I should add some dolphins in there. Get some Estranged going.
That'd be cool.
Ian would want that. Ian,
do you remember?
Ian's more of an Estranged person.
I do love that.
I'm a November Rain guy.
Do you remember during like the Axl and Friends era? This started on my GNR forum when they started playing Estranged again because they went, I think, 14 years or something without playing Estranged. Because I think Axl, it might have been out of respect for Slash, who knows? But they did start playing it with Bumblefoot. And on my GNR forum, people were saying someone should sneak in like a blow-up dolphin and pass it around the audience. And someone finally did it. Okay. And I think that like after, like passing it around for just like a minute, security grabbed it, deflated it.
What fucking narc does that?
Yeah.
Jeez, whatever. But it's just to experience and just hoping that something special happens because this is the 30th year of Appetite. There have been random shows where things like Steven has come out before. I would just really feel bad about life if Izzy came back for that one show. That's what I was hoping that. Ian and I were hoping that last year because we went on, it was Slash's birthday. We thought something special would happen then. It didn't. It might be cool to see because
you are right. If you go and I don't go and Izzy comes out, I'm going to feel like shit. So.
And I will forever regret like those kind of decisions because I know Ian's a Mets fan. Are you a Mets fan as well?
I am.
Or not a sports gal?
I'm not a sports gal.
Well, maybe you'll understand the point anyway. I went to go see. I was supposed to see the Yankees in the Expos, years ago, and I'm like, I don't want to go. They're a shitty team. And let my brother go. And of course, David Cohn had a perfect game that game. So I will never make those kind of decisions again.
I once sold tickets to Prince at Mohegan Sun. Oh. Yeah, because I spent a ton on those tickets and no one ended up wanting to go with me.
Couldn't get a date?
Yeah, pretty much. No, you're correct. And I'm like, I'm not going to go to Prince by myself. And I was like, let me just sell these. And now I totally wish I went to Prince by myself.
I was at the Guns N' Roses show in L.A. where, the Dancing with Mr. Brownstone at the Coliseum when they opened or played with the Stones and they're like the whole drug thing. The drug reference that Axl said. Do you remember that one? We're going to break up, and one of the members of
somebody
this
doesn't
band
stop dancing with Mr. Brownstone.
I might have.
You were there?
I was there.
Wow. Legendary.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't thought about that story in a while.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
I remember writing about it.
But I have to go, and I think Ian, I don't know if we've done a story since, and we weren't sure. They just did Black Hole Sun as a tribute, which a lot of artists have already done, but they're continuing.
Incubus, I think, did it too.
Yeah, and a ton of bands have been doing it, but and it's not always has been Black Hole Sun, which I do like. Oh, I think Dee Snider just did Spoon Man or something, so it's still happening.
That's cool.
But the fact that Guns N' Roses now it's part of their set list. It's part of
that's cool.
They've been playing Black Hole Sun, so that might be a cool experience. So there's little things a reason why I'm going. I'm not happy about the amount of money I'm spending.
Yeah.
And I was pissed about this. The fact that last year, because I know you signed up to be a Night Train member, correct? Last year,
and now you have to renew.
What is that?
Night Train is like a fan club member, and basically with that. Which in typical GNR fashion, like if you sign up for the VIP thing, you don't even meet the band. You just get like a tour, which is weird. But you had to sign up for it, and you got like a T-shirt. You got like a laminate, I guess, around your neck, like a lanyard around your neck. And I guess some of those fans, if you wore them, that you might get a seat upgrade.
I don't think I've heard from anybody though.
It was also to get a pre-sale code.
Yeah,
that was the main reason why I bought it. So I'm like, all right. So I did the same thing for this show. And it expired. It's a year.
Yeah,
so basically,
I buy this whole thing again.
I'm like, I'm not paying for this again. So I was actually kind of pissed. I think that's a bad move because these tickets are expensive as it is, and
then you're going to have to buy merch.
all the things that they're adding on is just it just I don't know.
Well, we can thank Kiss for starting that, right?
Well, thankfully, Gene Simmons dropped his claim that he started the Devil Horns, that piece of shit.
No, see, I
don't know if you've ever interviewed Gene, but
I had a feeling we were going to get into this, and I knew
you and your Kiss.
I knew you were going to hate that him doing that. I
hate him.
I think it's genius, because here's the thing.
Well, it was the "I love you" symbol.
I know,
it's not the metal symbol. Yes.
No, it's not.
So,
no, he thinks it's like an homage to Spider-Man. Get the fuck out of here.
See, the thing with Gene Simmons, though, is he is a businessman. This is his whole thing. I don't think he really felt he was going to win this lawsuit. This was for free publicity to file this lawsuit. It costs they were talking about this on Three Sides of the Coin, the Kiss podcast. Mm-hmm. There's actually a Kiss podcast. We're not the first to do this type of thing. So anyway, they were saying it costs maybe about $700 to try to file a trademark.
$272, I believe.
Yeah,
only because I reported on it. So
there you go, much cheaper.
Yes.
All right, half that price.
And he was filing a trademark mark or something.
All right, so $272. He might be able to get it even cheaper because he's Gene Simmons and he knows people, I would think.
No, it's the government.
All right, so $272. I was thinking if you have to hire a lawyer and all that, because they said
$700. Probably that's true. But I think you and I could file something and trademark.
Yeah, because the
thumbs up.
The guy
we're on the radio. You gave a thumbs up.
I did.
The guy from Three Sides of the Coin who started that podcast said that he trademarked Three Sides of the Coin. He was like, it cost me altogether about $700.
Yeah,
so anyway, he was saying that he's like, this got major publicity. He's like, and I'm not just talking rock publicity. He was like, they were talking about it on The View. They were talking about it on Good Morning America. It's like, you don't think Gene Simmons did this for a reason, just to piss people off and get all this publicity? I agree.
Dick!
It's a brilliant move, man. It's just to get the Kiss name out there, because no one's talking about Kiss right now.
No.
So how do you get people talking about Kiss? Do shit like this. That's how you do it. I don't know. Market.
Donated $2 million to some African baby dying from AIDS. Do something good. Why you gotta be a dick?
Wait, now let's connect Kiss to Guns N' Roses. Am I wrong about this? Was Gene or Paul involved in
Paul Stanley?
He was going to produce them, right?
Yeah.
He went to the show with the Gazaris or something.
And then Axl, if you could probably find it. I don't know if you want to grab it on YouTube. Axl went on a whole rant against Paul Stanley and was like, "Fuck Paul Stanley," because I guess he wanted to.
Did they have a meeting? Yeah, they had a meeting. Right?
Yeah, and I think he wanted to change the band's image or their sound according to Axl, and Axl was like, "Hell no!" Wondering if you see it, yeah, it looks like it's probably it. If we could pull this up on the spot here, it's cool that we can do this.
Give me a second.
Yeah, go.
I'm not Dr. Octopus.
We'll talk amongst ourselves.
No, he's got it right here. Let's.
Have Kiss and Guns played together ever? Has that been probably it's shared like some festival stuff, but
And it seems like there's a lot of older generation rock stars who got a lot of shit to say about us. And you see a lot of other bands, new bands, copying a lot of other people. Now we try to draw off things and learn some roots, but we ain't trying to be nobody but ourselves and have a good fucking time. Now people like Paul Stanley from Kiss can suck my dick.
You dick!
And some of these old guys that say we're ripping them off, maybe they should listen to some of their early albums and remember how to play them. Paul Stanley about a year ago.
This is another rant.
Okay, so
that's another rant, though. I think right there.
Well, we got the picture of.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
so there is definitely a Kiss, Guns N' Roses connection. And to me,
recently Gene Simmons called. He's like, I don't want to have an Axl situation with Paul. Like he compared it. I'm like, and it came out within the last half a year. It's like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
So that's why I don't. He just does things just to be a dick. You're not in wrestling.
Yeah, he's good at getting publicity, though, man. He's great at it.
He should run for president.
Because if you watch, Kiss live is not what it used to be. Paul Stanley's voice is not there. Oh, really?
It was after Poison and Jones Beach, and me and my friend were falling asleep, and we were going to leave. Like, we just can't leave.
Even the explosions didn't keep you up?
No, we were
didn't Paul sail over the audience?
No, I don't know. I mean, I'm not as big of a fan as you are, Ian. I don't dislike him.
Yeah.
But just Gene Simmons in general.
Well, you hate Gene, yeah.
Well, I think
kind of like I'm not a fan of Peter Criss.
Well, a lot of people like how they hate Axl, and I think With Axl, a lot of it seems to be rumor or story because, Katherine was saying before, your interactions with him have been fine.
Yes.
But, I hear the opposite with Gene Simmons. So,
I've had lots of interactions with Gene as well.
Oh, has he been nice to you
and
at
get
least?
this, I used to write for his magazine. He had a magazine called Gene Simmons Tongue.
Yep.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Oh, my
It
God.
was kind of like Maxim. It was like his take on Maxim was Hot Chicks.
Oh, it wasn't like Oprah?
Yeah.
It wasn't like O Magazine? It was...
Oh, that would be amazing. And he'd be have his Christmas issue. Well, the Christmas Kiss photos are awesome. The Christmas photos
magazine.
are awesome.
Wow.
But anyway, so no, actually, when I worked at Rip Magazine and he would occasionally call the assistant who answered the phones, she'd call him Penis. She'd be like, Gene Penis called. We all disliked him. But, once when I was interviewing him, he reached out and fixed my hair and said, "Don't wear your hair behind your ears. You look like a librarian."
That sounds very Gene Simmons.
So anyway, I can
that
roll.
sounds like a human resources
yes,
problem.
exactly.
Oh, yeah. Gene Simmons does sound like a human resources problem. Like it's not
the Gene Simmons syndrome, the Simmons syndrome. Yeah, and I can roll with him, and I enjoy the banter and the challenge,
Sure.
so I don't really mind. But yeah, I would say stuff. He'd be like, "I'm on the road with some beautiful ladies in my room. Say hello, ladies." I'm like, "And what does Shannon say?" And he just rolls with everything. So I know so many men, the present company included, I guess, just who worship Gene so much. And
I definitely don't. I don't worship anyone,
no,
but yeah.
If you have you paid for the meet and greet?
No. There's also people who pay for the bass that he plays on stage one time, and it's like thousands of dollars. I think.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he does that like every show. Anyway, I do have to ask you about.
Can we sell our mics
else.
after this and make some money?
That would be awesome. I feel like I have to ask you about this off the topic of GNR, just what I mentioned when I introduced you. So Keith Caputo, who is now Mina Caputo from Life of Agony. The thing that's interesting to me about this whole thing is that Keith Caputo, when Mina Caputo was Keith Caputo, you would say like very male aggressive frontman. Even like the over-the-top New York accent of like, hey, this is Keith Caputo from Life of Agony. Never would you think transitioning to be a woman. And on top of that, still singing for Life of Agony as Mina Caputo. I'm just wondering, like, your take on it as knowing Mina.
Yeah, we over the last couple of years, we've done, 20 hours of interviews, I would say, at least. And I've been to her house and, we've talked and texted a lot. Such an amazing story. A lot of it has come out in Life of Agony lyrics and stuff. But from the age of, 5 or 6, Keith felt different. It was like, I don't think I'm gay. Was just confused. And there wasn't the whole gender discussion back in the 70s when growing up in Brooklyn, going to Lemoore, But she told me stuff. She's like, I'd go to Lemoore when I was 15 and Pete Steele from Type O Negative or Carnivore then, I guess, would put Keith on his shoulders. Like, wow, I can't even imagine that, So Keith was always like a tiny guy, but also super aggro, aggressive, would go
and the
around
music
with his
was super
blackjacks.
aggro. Like,
Yes.
by no means would you call Life of Agony like feminine music.
No, not
and
at
the
all.
audience was predominantly male,
Yes.
at least at that time.
Yeah, not at all. And and he had many beautiful girlfriends as well. Just gorgeous. He was a rock star and had the usual spate of gorgeous women on his arm. And so I think the transition, old school Italian family, definitely like way back Brooklyn roots. Everyone's like, "Yo, buddy," it's just, and but the coming out process. I guess if you listen to Mina Caputo, even early Keith solo material. There's hints of it, but, she was too scared to, probably understandably say,
They say the same thing
I'm
about
a woman.
About Laura Jean Grace.
Yeah.
Against you interviewed her recently.
I
didn't you?
did, actually. She's
I was listening to some Against Me this morning, and it's the same thing. She has such a, a voice that you just never kind of pictured
except I guess even though I would say even after Laura transitioned and lyrics were about that what is it, Gender Dysphoria Blues, I think was.
Yeah, you go back and look
album.
at Tom's lyrics, right?
Yeah,
and it's right. You can see it.
Yeah, but I think Mina, a lot of her own solo music is much quieter and more acoustic and more lovely, and she's really, Keith grew up listening to what we all did, Zeppelin and Stones and I guess, stuff, Biohazard and more local New York hardcore stuff. But also loves like PJ Harvey and is more pictures herself like that now, I think, you know?
I may come back as Brenda after Lady Gaga. That may happen. I guess best of luck. I mean, I hope that happens. It sounds
we'll
like
see.
a fascinating story.
Whether I finish the book, someone else finishes the book, her story is just amazing. And Life of Agony, you know, has a new record out, and there's a whole new chapter for them. And I think, you know, it's funny on stage. She spits and stuff, and I was at a Life of Agony concert, and the person next to me says, "Ladies shouldn't spit." And I actually told her that later, and she's like, "Fuck them." I'm like, all right.
How did the rest of the band respond? You know, because it's got to be kind of weird. You're this aggressive, as you said, like male. Hardcore band, or however you want to categorize them, because I don't think they really fit into a category, but like they had a kind of tough guy image, and now you have a woman fronting the band.
Yeah. I mean, the weird thing is, I guess, that's also such close family. Like Joey, you know, they're literally cousins, I think, Joey and Mina. And so they grew up next to each other. And so I think some of the band kind of felt like, Keith was always a little different and quiet and strange. So they always knew, you know, Keith was the oddball. So maybe there was a teeny bit less surprise. And maybe they'd seen, like, you know, cross-dressing at parties or Halloween. So maybe there'd been little inklings in the back of the mind. Yeah, Keith's weird.
I cross-dress on Halloween. This is getting too real. It's getting too real.
And you wear mostly Mozart shirts, which I'm going to out you about.
Oh, thank you. I love Mozart. This is actually my dad's shirt, but I love classical music anyway. But actually, that parlays into, you know, the book that you have out now, Louder Than Hell.
Yes.
And to one thing that Ian and I have discussed as well, because we've been discussed whether Guns N' Roses is a hair metal band or not, or do you consider them a heavy metal band? Where would you categorize them, and how did you get into
or just a rock band or hard rock band?
Yeah, well, how would you categorize them? Because, I mean, that's a big book, and I've seen, you know, GNR is in the book. You do. So, I mean, I want to know, I guess, how the whole process came, and what do you think of, how would you categorize them as a band?
Right. Well, funnily enough, excuse me, when I started the book, John Wiederhorn brought me into the book. It was kind of his idea, and he said, I need a co-writer, because we based it off of, I'm sure you guys know the book Please Kill Me, which is the legendary punk rock with Legs McNeil. Anyway, so 2 writers on that. They covered the history of punk. He's like, let's do it. We got our book deal, and then I didn't know how to start, really. It's like, you know, we have to start doing interviews. So I kept asking people, what is heavy metal to you? I mean, I really was like, I was a 12-year-old reporter. I didn't even know. And I think one of the first people I interviewed was actually someone from the band Mountain, Mississippi Queen.
Okay, sure.
Who were kind of...
Leslie Wester now.
Actually, it was...
I know he's a Long Island boy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, it was Corky Lang, the drummer, I think. But I did talk to Leslie also. And I think he said, heavy metal's like porn. You know, I know it when I hear it. You know?
Fair enough.
And, you know, as the book went on, I was able to ask better questions than what is heavy metal.
I think it's a good question, though, because there's no definite answer. There's people who will say, like, Jimi Hendrix is heavy metal.
Exactly.
And there's people that'll say, no, it's, you know, Slayer and all that is real heavy metal. So,
well, the first couple chapters of our book, Louder Than Hell, does address that. I mean, you know, Deep Purple, are they metal? Black Sabbath says they are not metal, as you probably know. Ozzy has said, you know, we're just a loud, heavy rock band.
I've heard Ozzy say that he doesn't like, you know, these kind of, I guess you would say, metalcore, deathcore bands that say they're influenced by Black Sabbath, because he's like, this just sounds like a guy screaming into a microphone. I have no idea how I influenced this.
Right.
I've heard him say that.
Yeah, and I mean, even Alice Cooper, he said one of his first reviews was or maybe I could be wrong about this, but I think it was Alice. You know, it sounds like a bag of heavy metal. I mean, maybe that was Ozzy. But anyway, heavy metal as a description was used in the 70s for some of these bands who are not metal. I mean, is Alice Cooper metal?
I wouldn't think so.
He's shock rock. I don't know.
Right, that's...
Yeah, if we have to categorize. And AC/DC, metal, not metal.
That's a borderline one, yeah.
Aerosmith? No.
I wouldn't even say Guns either, though. I think Guns is a hard rock band.
I would say so, too. And if they were hair metal, it's just because they emerged from that LA scene, and at that point they did have the hair and
hair metal,
eyeliner.
Hair metal, to me, was never really metal. It's just a name, you know, because I've heard them called glam rock, and it's the same genre of stuff. You know, to me...
That's more accurate, I think.
Yeah.
Glam.
I think glam is more accurate, because to me, metal, I think of like... Just, if you want to say older metal, I think of Iron Maiden. I think like that thrashy guitars, and then that moved into, when that came to America, Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, and I even heard Nikki Sixx once say that he wasn't that into metal because he was like, I like music you can dance to. And, Motley Crue, it's got a groove. You can kind of dance to it. He was like, you can't really dance to Slayer. And I feel like most metal you can't really dance to. So I guess
that's a nice. No one's.
You can slam dance, I guess.
If we do another edition of the book, I'm going to include you and saying that.
I would be honored.
But actually, I think. Poison and Faster Pussycat and all those bands, they didn't have the danger and the blues based like Aerosmith has, the totally kind of blues based dirty.
And that's why Slash wasn't good enough to be in Poison. Because
he wouldn't. What was the actual story? I think it is in Louder Than Hell, which I'm sure you've heard. It's something, when Poison plays, I don't know if they still do it. They'd be like, "Hi, I'm Ricky. Hi, I'm Cece," and he was supposed to say like, "Hi, I'm Slash."
Oh wow!
And then he said, "I can't do that."
Wow, that sounds very like Monkees.
Exactly, but I I remember seeing them back in the day, and they would,
Unbelievable. And it's funny. I mentioned it before. They put on a great show a few years ago, and I was waiting for them. And they opened up for Kiss.
Oh yeah, they're fun, man.
Yeah, but Kiss made me fall asleep. But it's still so. That's only the first 2 chapters. Obviously, we're not going to have you recite this, the 700 pages. We'll,
How much time do you have? We could start.
No, it's a podcast.
Yeah, we did a reading in Los Angeles, and we had Scott Ian read with us.
Okay.
And we just kind of went down the chapter and read. And when it came to my turn to read, I was reading the Scott Ian parts, even though he was next to me. I'm like, wait, no, we should switch this up. But I guess your original question was Guns N' Roses. Was that your original question?
What genre did you put them in?
What about them is in the book specifically, and how do you think they relate to metal? If they do?
I did new interviews with Slash and Duff for the book, and then I was able to use the interviews that I mentioned before with Steven and with Axl and with Izzy from, we used previously published interviews about, I don't know how much of the book, 20 or 30% was our archival material because unfortunately people had died, like Dio died as we were writing. So we were able to use old interviews and people we couldn't get, like we wanted to include Richie Blackmore from, Deep Purple, whether or not they're metal or not. We wanted to have his voice in there, but we couldn't get an interview. So it might have been Brad Talinsky or someone from Guitar World, said, oh, here, use my quote. So we were able to go elsewhere and get quotes for people who we couldn't reach. But I think all the gun stuff in my book was my interview, and like Vicki Hamilton is quoted in there. And in recent years, I've been in touch again with their management, like Alan Niven and Doug Goldstein. They're not in Louder Than Hell, but I mean...
Okay.
And I think a couple of those guys are also maybe shopping their own books or have stuff out there. I don't know how much. Is there an endless appetite for Guns N' Roses? Or
I think so. Otherwise we're screwed.
Yeah, good point. Well, what about? There's the Mark Cantor book. I think was that Reckless Road. I think that was called. That was kind of. He was like a picture. He was a photo guy more so.
Yeah.
I think.
I know. I read Here Today, Gone to Hell. I forgot who wrote that one.
So how many books? Everyone has a book out, correct? Yes, I'm looking at. No.
So I read Slash's. I read Stevens. I
Duff has like 4 out.
Yeah, right.
How to Be a Man. And,
yeah. Well, Axl's never written his own book.
However, it was just by chance. I was watching a Facebook Live with Sebastian when he was signing his book, and he was talking about how Axl is writing a book.
Wow.
So I think I still have the clip somewhere. Here we go. I can play it.
One person says you should tell Axl to start writing his memoir.
He already did.
Have you read it?
No. But
Is it locked away?
No, but I remember when I was on tour with him in 2010, I was like, I'm going to start writing a book, dude.
Sebastian.
Because have you started yet? I go, well, I got, chapter or 2. I go, have you started writing yours? He goes, yeah, I got like 40,000 words. Or some crazy number. But who knows if
it'll ever come out.
Who knows?
I mean,
man, I would love to read that.
Yeah.
Chinese Democracy came out, so I'd like to think his book will come out at some point as well.
Wow. Yeah, that would be amazing. I hadn't even really thought about that. You're right. But there must be several books about Axl, obviously, the unauthorized
Oh, for sure.
stuff.
I mean, and I know our friend John Miller is trying to work on a documentary about his young life, and I think he's also working on a documentary about the documentary because he's he's just an interesting figure.
Well, from what he said, it's more of a actual movie than a documentary, right? If I remember correctly.
Oh, I think I guess that's what John wants to do.
He's going to have actual actors playing
he wants
Axl.
Detroit Rock City with Kiss.
Yeah,
I love that.
But it's all
movie.
about his childhood, like with Rapid Fire and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, well, also in Louder Than Hell, I talked a lot to Tracy Guns. I talked to, a lot of the people from that scene back then. And so I got a lot of cool early Guns stories. Also, when I think the very first tour when Guns N' Roses played Seattle, I talked to, I can't remember who it was, someone in a Seattle band. They're like, we can't believe that Duff joined a hair metal band. And they were all like, what the hell is this? Because he had some punk credibility from the Farts and his other bands up there. And so when the first time Guns played there, they're like, oh, God, do we have to go see this Duff and this horrible thing?
I have my own kind of theories on this, but why do you think it is that Guns was able to sustain so well and move on to such bigger mainstream success than all these bands, whether it's L.A. Guns, Faster Pussycat, even Motley Crue, they went on to bigger success than them when they were opening for them. Like I said, I have my own ideas, but you've been in the know for so much longer than me, and there's got to be like that secret ingredient that they have that these other bands didn't have.
Well, I mean, I guess obviously the songs, first of all. I mean, especially when you have the November Rains and you go into ballads that are and Sweet Child that are radio friendly. But I also think, even though a lot of Guns' career was without Slash, the Axl Slash is like the Mick Keith and the Joe Stephen, that iconic push-pull of the,
No, I agree. And I've been listening to, and I say that now, I've been listening to a lot of Buckethead recently. And I know Chinese Democracy is a Buckethead.
That sentence has never been uttered before.
I know, really?
Hey, if you go see Buckethead...
There's plenty of music out there.
If you go see Buckethead at B.B. King's, which he plays like just about every year...
He puts on a good show from what I hear.
But he sells that place out. I'm talking about like you cannot move.
I never saw him with the band, so...
I
like Robin Fink. Is that...
Yes.
His playing, I thought, was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
Buckethead does have a huge fan base, man. He's got a real cult following.
And just listening to his stuff, and it was my first time really spending time with it. It's not what you think. It's a lot very I feel like I'm in a spa, and I've never been to a spa.
Every album is different. You got to keep that in mind.
Well, I've been listening to a bunch of it. I mean, that's what a lot of these internet radio stations do. They just mix and match or whatever. But it's not what you think. And I love his playing. I love Chinese Democracy, and I'm even listening to it compared to some Snake Pit records, and even Slash's solo stuff, and it's very different. And I actually might like some of it more than Slash's solo stuff. But again,
I do.
Like you just mentioned, Axl and Slash together, it's just something.
It is.
Just those first few notes last year for "It's So Easy," I'm like, oh my, I can't explain.
Right?
Yeah, and I had unlike you, I had never seen them on stage before. I had seen Axl and Friends. I had seen Velvet Revolver, so they played a concert in my brain, but never in front of my eyes. Never in front of my eyes. So I mean, it was So yeah, I completely agree. We're on the same page, even though I am still spending money to see them again.
I mean, of the big concerts I've seen in the last year, Metallica and Guns N' Roses. To me, Guns N' Roses was far superior. Just on stage, the energy, the chemistry, the charisma. Of course, James Hetfield's a very different singer than Axl, but I don't know.
Slash is also, to me, a far superior guitar player than to Kirk Hammett. Honestly,
right.
That too. I would even say, I'll take Frank over Lars. I mean, I just like the songs better. All together, I just think they're better. So, I mean, I'm doing this podcast.
Where do we go between Cliff Burton and Duff McKagan, though? Can we do that?
I still think I'd go with Duff.
I think you are going to get hate mail.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that is just
ill of Cliff Burton.
But I think a lot of that is because he's no longer with us. I mean, if they were still alive, I'd put Duff McKagan.
Okay, Newstead.
I'm still going to say Duff.
All right, so I guess people who die
or Rob
aren't
all my friends, they died.
That's a great song,
isn't it? Yes, Jim Carroll.
So you're in the same camp as me that you're not too excited for like an MSG show. You would be for the Apollo, but I am excited for hopefully new music from this current lineup.
We're on the same page because I'm going to ask you the same thing because we were talking about Alice putting out a new record, and I mean, what is the reception for classic artists with new music? It's difficult. So, do you want new music? How do you think it's going to be received if there is?
Silence. No, it's
It's a
funny.
lot.
No, it's something. I mean, working with Alice Cooper, his show's classic rock, and so I do a lot of interviews on that. And I just talked to Kansas, I talked to Styx, and they all have new music.
Exactly.
Foreigner, and they only have one new song. But anyway, it's and we talk about how there isn't much of a market, and fans don't want to hear it. They want to hear Point of No Return and the
Sure.
classic hits. But I mean, once in a while, for Alice, definitely. I mean, he's had so many phases to his career. Once in a while, there is a Poison or a new song that becomes, a new iconic tune. So I think there's always that possibility for that to happen. And the hardcore fans, definitely. I mean, again, working with Alice so long, people, albums that I never paid that much to, I love The Last Temptation. I love that. I love, Flush the Fashion. There's super hardcore fans for everything. So I think, and the artists want to keep feeling vital and get their creativity out. So
I don't know, though. I would put Guns in a different camp, though, than Foreigner or Alice Cooper, personally. I think if Guns N' Roses puts out a new album of new material, it will not only be an event, I would see it being probably number one on Billboard.
Well, then let me ask, and I don't know if you can answer this, Katherine.
Mm-hmm.
Would you play a new Guns N' Roses song on Nights with Alice Cooper?
For sure, in a second.
Okay,
yes.
And are you playing? Because I know, like, Styx, they were here, I heard just last week. Are you playing new Styx? Because a lot of stations or shows don't do that.
I do. We on Nights with Alice Cooper, we have a section we call what do we call it? Future Classic. Basically, new music from classic artists.
So that's smart.
And we try it out a couple times. I mean, there's new Slaughter out. There's
Yeah, Mark Slaughter, solo stuff.
Ian's BFF.
He's a great guy.
So we actually do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, some of it sticks, some of it doesn't. And we also play new bands that sound old. Like there's I don't know if you know Raven Eye, and there's this new band coming out called Greta Van.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, what?
Greta Van Susteren.
Yes, it's awesome. Very political rock. No, and so
Imagine a whole band just like dressed like her. Like they have that Ned Flanders band.
And
Oakley Dokley, rather, yes.
She is a Scientologist, so you'd have to put some of the lyrics about Scientology in there.
Oh, wow. I smell
Going
sitcom.
Clear.
The first album name, Going Clear. Oh.
So, on Alice's show, we play old bands that do new stuff, and we play new bands that sound old. So,
okay.
Just to kind of let everyone know that it's out there. And
no, that's a great approach.
So, the majority of the show is, Stones, Beatles, Doors.
Sure.
But we're moving it, it's weird. We play Nirvana now on Nights with Alice Cooper. It's a classic rock show, and people, what? Is Nirvana classic rock? I don't know.
No, well, I know when I first saw like Nirvana or even Guns on VH1 Classic, and I'm just like, really?
I know.
I've seen Korn on what is now MTV Classic.
Yeah, now it's getting crazy.
Well, I mean, timeline wise, yes, but right, musical wise, no.
That's the question.
20 years, 25 years, whatever is considered classic.
Right. The classic rock stations that I've worked on or programmed. I mean, there are a lot of. And I'm just thinking of a specific artist, Tom Petty. He's put out a lot of good new songs over the past few years. I mean, The Last DJ was a great song.
Good point.
And they might have a quick shelf life, or they're not played at all.
That's another song I didn't get shouted out in, Last DJ.
That's very true. But here, I remember, and I think I had mentioned it before, when Chinese Democracy, the single came out, they Q104 right down the hall played it at the top of every hour, but very short-lived.
Right.
So, and I think that also hurt Chinese Democracy. Maybe that's why Axl left the country. He's like, I'm not getting help from anybody.
Yeah,
I don't know. So I mean, that's I'm good. I'm glad that you would be hopefully potentially playing new Guns N' Roses.
But I mean, how many Chinese Democracy songs are in the current live set? 3, 2?
Might be 4.
Really? 4?
You got Better. You got This I Love.
Sorry, right? Is that
well, they have played Sorry. They have played There Was a Time. This it's definitely
it's around 3 or 4. Yeah,
it's actually not too bad.
I was thinking,
but they're still doing too many covers, in my opinion. I don't know why they're still doing the Seeker from the Who. I mean,
unless they tour with the Who, as you said.
Well, they are.
Wait, so what are your favorite
in the US,
your favorite Guns covers?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think I know mine.
I'm trying to think.
I'll go first.
Go for it.
You're the guest.
I love Nice Boys, the Rose Tattoo song. Nice Boys Don't Play Rock and Roll. Mm-hmm.
That's definitely up there.
He's got his good voice for it. Angry Anderson, I think, was the singer of Rose Tattoo.
I need to pick a new one because it was a whole lot of Rosie. And
yes.
recently we mentioned that Angus Young just came out in Germany, I believe, for that show. But they've been playing it too much. Now that he's with AC/DC, now I feel like, all right, now I need to reassess and have a new favorite cover. So it might be Black Hole Sun right now. He's gotten better.
Heard that yet.
He's gotten better at singing it each time. I was like, this doesn't sound great the first time, but he's gotten better each time. But I'm thinking, they're already playing I know their hits already. Knock on Heaven's Door, Live and Let Die. I mean, it's enough with the covers. I mean,
are they doing Sympathy for the Devil or no?
No, I mean, that's something else. The last song that he ever recorded was Slash.
Yeah.
I actually just listened to that recently. That came up on my my iTunes.
Yeah, someone requested it on Alice's show, and I listened again. It's great.
It's a great tune. Interview with the Vampire soundtrack.
That's the song I believe that they...
It was the last time Slash and Axl?
Isn't that the one where they said Gilby knew he was out also because he didn't play on it?
Oh,
I think something like that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, yeah, they recorded over Slash's parts with Paul Tobias.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, there was.
We talked about that on I think our first episode.
Okay.
I think, yeah. I don't know what mine would be. Maybe Down on the Farm. I don't even know who that's originally by. I just like the cover. Is that a Iggy Pop?
No, it's not Iggy, and I don't remember either. I want to say someone like the Dead Boys, but that's not it either.
That's the thing. The covers on that album are so obscure.
They're all punk bands.
Which is cool. Yeah.
A lot of people assumed, I think, GNR putting out a covers album, you'd hear more AC/DC, Black Sabbath, that type of thing, and that was not what the Spaghetti Incident was. So I'm not familiar with a ton of those songs, but they still... Those songs are great to me, so that's up there.
Where do you guys stand on the Charles Manson controversy?
Oh, them putting...
it's UK subs, by the way.
Oh.
Okay. The Charles Manson cover, I mean, it's not in the best taste, and I get why it's not on the track list anymore, but...
But it's still on the record,
it's
but
still
not
on
on the track
there,
list.
yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But can you imagine... I guess this is also comparing when you first saw Guns to potentially now... Axl coming out, bicycle shorts, whatever he did, the Charlie Don't Surf T-shirt with Charles Manson. Now, they have their moments. They brought it out there, the Donald Trump pinata in Mexico City, little statements here and there, but I can't imagine him doing anything like that anymore. I don't know, like Charles Manson to support a murderer, I don't know, maybe he's calmed down a little bit. Or has gotten smarter, or he just doesn't give a shit? I don't know if you have a perception.
I don't think he gives a damn, but I don't know. I mean, maybe those are like youthful things. I mean, when I was younger, I was super interested in serial killers and read all those books and stuff. But, maybe that phase of your life kind of, fades into the background.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I think a lot of people... kids into metal and hard rock, they tend to be into darker stuff at the same time, which I was
Crowley.
too. Yeah, and then as you get older, I think you evolve past that, which I think Axl did. You listen to Chinese Democracy, the songs are... Yeah, I've said this to you before, you listen to Appetite for Destruction, that entire album is sex, drugs, rock and roll. You listen to Chinese Democracy, it's none of that. It's a really deep album. You know what I was going to say? So if they put out new music, I would love to see them pull I guess you'd say Beyonce or Drake, and just put out a surprise album. On iTunes. Could you imagine tomorrow Guns N' Roses new album on iTunes? I would be perfect. I think they should do something like that, and I could see them doing something like that.
You think so? You don't think Axl would want kind of like the fanfare of...
No, I think that's an awesome
randomly
idea,
one day he just shows up?
I mean, it would get the most publicity, I think, if out of, just like they did the April 1st show.
Yeah.
The April 1st show was unknown to the public, and it was just on the forums and stuff, people knew about it, and they did it. I think it would be cool if they did an album the same way, just surprise out of nowhere.
I hope so.
Or even just an EP, or just a little something.
I would go nuts.
I mean, it is interesting. And I actually have a question. Since you've been working with, I have several questions. This has been the whole episode. Alice Cooper, I mean, not everybody can go from rocker to talk show host. That's a difficult transition. Everyone thinks they can do it. David Lee Roth failed at it. I mean, I know Steve Jonesy's Jukebox is doing really well, but I can't hear him.
I love his music, but
I don't understand what he's saying.
It's painful to listen to him often.
Yeah, one time I listened to an interview with him and Danzig, and it was too mush mouth.
Sounds amazing.
Oh, watching it was amazing. If he was listening to it, I don't know if I would have been able to do it. Which GNR member could you possibly see? Because you've spoken to them all in some capacity, possibly hosting a radio show.
Duff.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first knew Duff, he was not, this. I mean, he was always articulate enough and well spoken.
Radical.
Sorry.
But, the fact that I actually give him hell because, he got a degree, I think, finance or something. He's got some business, yes.
Something
and then
like
he
that,
started writing for like Playboy and all these places and doing financial columns.
ESPN.
Yeah, and so I'm like, you're taking away my work. And actually, I said, you know what, I was talking with him and I said, I'd love to do a Alice in Chains book. He's like, oh, they asked me to do it. I'm like, shut up. So I don't know. That was a while ago. I don't know if that's happening or not. But I think Duff is just super articulate and will look you in your eye and engage. And Slash is actually a little shyer. I think Duff just has the, kind of the tempo to do that and the wide knowledge.
I would love that. Duff Radio.
Yeah, I think that.
In the meantime, we get Appetite for Distortion for everything.
And Guns N' Roses are doing a limited channel on Sirius XM.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean,
What does that mean,
I heart
limited
radio,
channel?
but that's fine.
Yes. Well, it's limited because we're not on it.
Yeah,
that's their limitation.
It probably just means it's all just GNR, right?
Yeah, but it's a limited run. It's going to be
just to hype the show.
Yeah, probably a couple months that they'll turn some other channel into Guns N' Roses radio. Apparently, they're playing tracks that inspired the band, all the tracks from the band. Hopefully, there's going to be some interviews there. I mean, I would think they'll have Slash and Duff on there. It's very hard to get Axl to talk, so I wouldn't be.
That's our goal on the show. That is our goal.
What is your ultimate goal? How can I help you achieve this?
To get Axl on there?
Yeah. I mean, just to get Axl. I just want to hug him.
Oh. Does he need a hug or do you need that hug?
I need the hug.
Okay.
I'm in therapy. Axl might be too. I think that's why I identify with him a little bit. I'm like, he seems messed up. I'm messed up. Let's be messed up together, friends.
Don't we want to see Some Kind of Monster is done by Guns N' Roses, right?
To see that during the Chinese democracy era, I think would just be...
I wonder what kind of footage there is. I mean, video footage there is about the making of.
There's got to be something out there.
Probably Dell or someone who's in their inner circle just has...
Yeah, we're trying to crack that. I mean, I think that's what we're doing here. We're trying to crack all these different nuts and getting more.
So I'm just a nut for you to crack.
You were already a nut when you came in here.
Oh, damn!
As are we.
Yes, I'll be a hazelnut. Now, I was just thinking. Sorry, I was just going to go on a tangent. There's
about hazelnuts.
Best in Show.
Oh.
There's a great scene in that where he names all kinds of nuts. Yes, and where Christopher Guest, or as we call him, Nigel Tufnell.
Yes, from Spinal Tap.
This was absolutely an honor to have you here and to meet you. So check out KatherineTurman.com. Follow her on Twitter at Katherine Turman. I'll spell it out too, KatherIneTurman, just in case you're not looking at your display
and
right now.
autocorrect always spelled it with a C. I don't like that.
Yeah, so with the K, go pick up Louder Than Hell, the definitive oral history of metal. And anything else before we wrap this up? This has been great.
Well, thank you. No, thanks for having me. No, I'm just trying to broaden my horizons. I'm writing for Billboard and The Village Voice and Esquire, and I'm excited about discovering new bands as well as our old favorites like Guns.
Well, that's a good question because Brando and I very often are saying there's no great new bands. Who are the great new bands that you think this audience would like?
And a lot of them come up to United Stations radio networks, I see. So I know you meet a lot of them.
They do. I mean, a lot of them are on hard drive. I guess for me, I still always like the more classic rock, bluesy kind of bands like the Blackberry Smoke, or they're not that new. Now that you're putting me on the spot, I'm forgetting them all. But even like Queens of the Stone Age, they have a new record coming out. I'm kind of looking forward to that. And I will play them on Nights with Alice Cooper also.
Nice.
Though.
I remember one time, it was one of my first radio jobs, board hopping for Nights with Alice Cooper when I was living in Cape Cod, and you played My Chemical Romance, Teenagers.
Really?
Yeah. You don't even remember that.
I do not remember that.
No, I was like, wow, Alice Cooper's got a great show. I mean, I can get to hear I'm 18 next to, some of my emo shit. This is great.
I know. Alice actually has, whenever he finds a band that he loves, he always tries to sneak it in, and we're like, no, you can't do it in like the first hour of the show. No one wants to hear brand new music. But
hilarious.
We get it in there.
Well, you got to sneak it in now and be like, hey, you got to call back, so we got to have some the garden reunion.
I promise you, I'm actually going to plant the seed on both sides.
Awesome.
I will. And, knock on
that.
wood. We'll see.
Look at that. We can move mountains and molehills maybe on Appetite for Distortion. Or at least Catherine is doing it. We're the biggest ones you just said.
I'll forward you the rejections I get. Just to,
I need more in my life.
Yeah, you never know.
But it was great seeing you again, Catherine. It's been so long. I've been following you on Facebook and Twitter. I haven't seen you in so many years. I mean, not like it matters if you're not in New York, but it was on 40th and 6th, and you guys moved now?
Yep, now
where
we're at Madison Avenue, baby, right down from Trump Tower. Yeah, we're... Yeah, it's kind of funny because, we have bands coming up to the office and, it's all bankers and BlackRock Financial and all this crazy stuff around us. And we have dudes with guitars coming up.
They must be getting all freaked out
great.
And stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever someone comes in the building with long hair and a T-shirt, they just send them to our floor.
They know where they're going. Yeah. That's hilarious.
It's funny in Alice Cooper, when he comes, a lot of time they have to take the picture, for the security camera. So I have some of Alice's awesome security camera photos.
You must look so funny.
Someday I'll sell those.
You got to make them like a T-shirt or something.
Or remember, there's a lot of great mugshots. There's a good Axl mugshot, isn't there?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Numbers under.
I should make that into a T-shirt as well. But no, again, thank you for coming into the studio.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I will promote you everywhere and
vice
make
versa.
Magic happen.
And vice versa. And if you're ever so inclined, we would love to have you back.
Thank you. I would love to be back.
There she goes, Catherine, who hopefully I will see again before another 10 years. But, I mean, that was just awesome for her agreeing to come in because I always... we're Facebook friends, and I'm always seeing her post supportive stuff about Guns N' Roses. I mean, maybe I don't know what you see in your timeline whenever there's some sort of article or a reunion mention or show. There's a lot of negativity still out there, but she's been waving that GNR flag high, and I've been wanting to pick her brain for a while, given her history. So very cool to finally get her on the episode. But we have to give out another thank you, which completely blew us both away. One, just the first thank you again is to Dave Kushner for our last interview, which was like a do-over. If you don't know what I'm talking about, listen to the last episode. Sure. But from that, a couple of stories were picked up by Alternative Nation.
Which was awesome, man, because I think for me, I work on, another podcast that gets a lot of publicity and that type of thing. And I always think of this as just like my fun little side project, to be completely honest. And I don't think most people care. But then I see this article from Alternative Nation, and it's getting all these comments because of Dave Kushner. And, man, it was just awesome to see people getting out there what we do, new listeners coming on board because of it. And it really means a lot. So Alternative Nation, you guys rock.
Yeah, thank you so much. So,
and especially, by the way, I should say, they could have been one of these news outlets who would just take a clip of Dave Kushner, not mention us.
We definitely mentioned it in there. Link to our show.
They linked to our show, so they did it the right way.
Yeah, no, and again, thank you for that. And if you want to do it going forward, keep it up. Hopefully, we'll keep providing you good interviews that will get good content that wants to go viral. So that's something else actually you can help us out with in addition to the clips that we started out with, the show with Anna from Portugal. Again, if you want to send us a 2-3 minute clip, whether you want to talk about the first time you saw Guns N' Roses and or a show that you've recently seen featuring the band, a show review. And again, just like with Alternative Nation, I mean, we don't know anybody there. Spread the word.
Yeah.
I mean, if you spread the word, we're going to continue to get bigger and better guests, and that's only going to provide you with just more of what you want. That's more Guns N' Roses material. So you are a part of the show. So help us out. Be a producer. That's kind of it. You can help out produce this show. I think that's actually kind of cool, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and our audience is awesome. Last thing I was going to mention before I get out of here, just because it's a tidbit. I know we mentioned Kiss already on this show. On
Usually
this episode.
Do.
Yeah, it always just seems to come up. So I was walking home from the SOFREP studio at Alley one night last week, and I saw all these people outside of the hotel across from Penn Station. It's a famous hotel, but I'm forgetting the name. I think it's Pennsylvania or something. Anyway, in Kiss shirts, like a ton of people in Kiss shirts. And I was like, what's going on here? It was a Friday night, and they were like, it was a Friday because they had the expo on Saturday. They were like, it was a big Kiss expo. And I was like, awesome. Who's going to be here? And they were like, tomorrow, Peter Criss and Bruce Kulick. And I'm a huge fan of Bruce. I could care less about Peter Criss.
Okay.
Even though he's the original drummer, man. Like, after reading his book and reading, like, Paul Stanley's book about him, like, man, I'm just not a fan of the guy, and this kind of solidified it for me. So Bruce Kulick couldn't be cooler. Got a picture with the guy, got one of his solo albums. But Peter Criss to me is like indicative of how not to treat your fans. There were people lined up for like 3 hours waiting to meet this man. Like, and some of them apparently paid in advance to get something signed by Peter Criss. And I don't know the reason why, but this seems to happen all the time with him from what I hear on other podcasts about Kiss and stuff. And just like taking his sweet time for these fans waiting like 3 hours to meet the man. And it's just not cool, man. I don't think that's the way that you treat your fans. So I just wanted to mention that, man. Bruce, on the other hand, who played on a lot of the great albums, played on Crazy Nights and stuff, wrote a lot of the great stuff. He was just an awesome guy. And it's funny to me, man. I mean, there's hundreds of people at this thing dying to meet Peter Criss, who hasn't played on a Kiss album in, I don't know, like 20 years or something. And, man, like, I think it's disappointing.
Well, I'm sorry you had that experience. I mean,
I didn't even try to meet Peter Criss, but I was just walking around this expo, which was really poorly done, to be honest. There was no music even playing. There were no, like, panels. It was really lackluster. But anyway, I felt like I wanted to mention it somewhere, and this is my outlet where I could mention it. I didn't care about meeting Peter Criss, but I feel like you have fans who still want to meet you after you really haven't done anything notable in 20 plus years. Dude, just do the right thing, man. And reading his book, I don't think he really appreciates his fans. He also apparently played his last solo show.
Yeah, I read
in New York City. So it is what it is. I know, not GNR related, but there's definitely some crossover.
No, and the crossover being, I'm seeing a lot of pictures on the Not in This Lifetime fan spot group on Facebook, posting pictures with Axl and the band, people meeting them after the show, some with even Axl smiling. So, I mean, this is a part of it. I mean, we've said it a million times. These shows are events because they did go away for such a long time. And every fan review reaction, whether it's a written review or a photo, just seems to be glowing and so overwhelmingly positive. So that's the stuff that you want to hear.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear things about like what you experienced with Peter Criss. And I guess that, again, that will never happen with Guns N' Roses because the meet and greet does not involve meeting the band. You just get a VIP tour of their dressing room. That's part of the
and
night.
Axl Rose doesn't need to make money doing like a GNR Expo in 2017.
No, he's not Virgil from the WWE or whatever.
Oh, I've heard those stories, man, from Sam Roberts.
Yeah. So this was a good show. We spoke about a lot. And again, going forward, if you want to send us a review or your first experience with GNR, 2-3 minutes, you can send it on our Facebook or Twitter at the AFD Show. If you want to email us, what is it? It's just
at the AFD Show
at gmail.com.
Oh, the AFD Show at gmail.com.
Right.
Yeah. Or is it AFD Show?
I think it's whatever. Just do the Twitter or Facebook. We're both on it. That is both the AFD Show.
Yeah, I haven't checked the email in a while. Oh, and I just want to mention one last thing because I don't want anybody to misinterpret what I said about the shows. If you did not see Guns N' Roses, this reunited / Axl Duff lineup on the first run, and they're coming to your area, go see them. Definitely go see them. I'm not at all saying like this isn't exciting. If you didn't see this yet, you are going to have an amazing time. It is going to be possibly life-changing. But I think that there's people in my camp who saw this already and they don't need to see it for a second year in a row. I could wait a little bit. I have a feeling they're going to continue touring. You're right, though. If Izzy Stradlin comes out to your show and I'm not there, I will be kicking myself. I agree with that. So who knows? Maybe if I could somehow get a hookup on tickets last minute, I'll go. I'm definitely not saying it's out of the question. But point being, if you're a listener to this show, you haven't seen the current lineup, go see them. You'll have an awesome time.
I am rock and roll.
I had to get one last clip in there. You said it perfectly, and I just think we're in an interesting position where we never knew, is this band going to get back together? When Axl started showing up, is this going to be the last time I see him? That's where you're seeing with Axl and friends. Now it's like, I'll see him next time.
Yeah.
Just like us. We'll see you next time. So anything else you want to add, my dear Ian, before we depart?
No, other than if you have some type of hookup on this Apollo show, hook us up, man. I really I saw Metallica.
How desperate was that?
I didn't mention it on the show because apparently Katherine was there too. I saw Metallica at the Apollo with Sirius. awesome, and to me, Guns N' Roses is such a better live band. I've seen both bands several times. Of course, I think Guns N' Roses is a better band altogether. To see them at the Apollo, that's a really small venue. Would be
we'll see. I have a friend who reached out to me, and for some reason, she's like, if you want to write a review for my music site, if I can get his passes, I'll give them to you. And that came out of nowhere. So we will see, if we get to go. At least I know I'm going to the MSG. And the thing that I do know, and at the same time don't know, is that we know we're having another episode coming out. When it's going to happen, we don't know. So as we depart, in the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll definitely see it.
You've been listening to the distorted minds of Brando and Scotto, dissecting all things Guns N' Roses on Appetite for Distortion. Follow the guys on Twitter at The AFD Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/The AFD Show.
Thanks to the lame ass security, I'm going home.